there it is. Thanks, Greg. I think we're recording, so I think it's prudent to go ahead and open the meeting. Can you hear me?
I think she's going to try to get in, but if you're recording it, I think that's acceptable to go forward. We keep a record of the votes, which you will be doing, Director, and we keep any record, any motions, who made the motions and seconds.
All right. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Firefighting Commission business meeting on April 16th at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. We're running just a little bit behind. We'll call it officially at 10:14. This will be an electronic meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which Governor Bill Lee has made an executive order and allowed this to happen. Director Grande, will you call the roll?
Chairman Biggs?
Here. Brian Biggs here.
Commissioner Hedgepeth, if you'll just text me you're present. He is present. He is texting me because he can't, for some reason, get his mic to work on this. So, Commissioner Henry.
Commissioner Henry.
Commissioner Kelly.
Commissioner Kelly's here.
Commissioner Curley is not present. We knew that. Commissioner Moore.
Commissioner Moore's here.
Commissioner Scott.
Commissioner Scott's here.
Commissioner Speck.
Commissioner Speck's here.
Commissioner Windrow.
Here.
Commissioner Maenda. Commissioner Farley.
Here.
And the chair or the director, I'm here.
Okay, I declare we have a quorum. I would ask all the commissioners, they would just, if you're not speaking at the moment, mute your mic just so we cut out some of the background noise while the others are speaking. At this time, I'm going to ask Chief Counsel Joe Underwood. He has to address the commission and has to record a statement for us before we can get started.
Thank you, Chairman. Commission members, I'll be reading a statement of necessity for the reason we're meeting electronically, and after that, I would appreciate a motion and a second and a vote of approval of adopting this statement of necessity, which I will then put in a letter to the Secretary of State tomorrow, is due within 2 days of the meeting, so that he can record it to the General Assembly. So it begins, a statement of necessity. A meeting of the Tennessee Commission on Firefighting Personnel Standards and Education Commission is taking place remotely at 10 a.m. on April the 16th, 2020, via electronic or other means of communication. Notice of this meeting was posted on the Commission's and the Department of Commerce and Insurance website on April 9th, 2020. As there is not a physical quorum present, a statement of necessity will be read into the record and filed with the Tennessee Secretary of State as required by statute. Pursuant to TCA Section 8-44-108B2, which states, if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, then in order for a quorum of members to participate by electronic or other means of communication, the governing body must make a determination that necessity exists. Furthermore, this determination by the Commission is as follows. Due to the impossibility of having a quorum of members physically present and the immediate need of the Commission to certify the eligibility of firefighters to receive salary supplement payments pursuant to TCA 4-24-202, the Commission believes the necessity exists that requires this meeting be held by electronic or other means of communication. The matter to be considered by the Commission at this meeting require timely action by the Commission. Further, physical presence by quorum of the members of the Commission is not practical due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and Governor Lee's Executive Order number 27, which has prohibited Commission members from attending the meeting in person, and participation by quorum of the members of the Commission by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. That's the end of the statement, Chairman.
Thank you, Chief Counsel. I need a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Windrow, seconded by, who was it? Who made the second?
I'll make it.
Seconded by Commissioner Henry. Motion by Windrow, seconded by Commissioner Henry. All those in favor, Mr. Director Grande, will you call the roll?
I will in just a moment. If you'll give me, who was the second?
Commissioner Henry was your second.
Thank you. Chairman Biggs. Chairman Biggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry or Commissioner Hedgepeth via text. Yes. Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Speck. Commissioner Speck.
Yes.
Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
That Commissioner Farley. And the director. Yes. They don't vote, right?
That's correct. Declare that the motion has passed. Any further, Chief Counsel? All right.
No, Chairman, that's all is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right. First off, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Moore back with us. I spoke to him several times, and he's recovered completely and is doing well. Welcome back, Commissioner Moore. And we're kind of not in the perfect setting to do a Pledge of Allegiance or a prayer, but I would ask that we take just a quick moment of silence to remember everything that's going on across the country right now in the world, and especially let's remember our folks that are still recovering from the tornadoes that stretch from Davidson County all the way into Putnam County. Let's remember them responders, them families, and also the families affected and the responders all across the state dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and the ones that recently responded to the Southeast Tennessee area and to Hamilton, Bradley County for them efforts down there. So take just a quick moment of silence for all that. Okay, thank you. If there's nothing further, we will, anything else from the commission, we will roll into our guest. And first one on the agenda is Commissioner Farley.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add right now, so I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Executive Director Elliott, you're next.
Good morning. I'll just give you a very brief report on the academy. With the executive orders, when the governor did put state employees, AWS, alternative workspace, we did officially shut down the academy. In addition to that, following CDC and state recommendations of not having more than 10 people, we also suspended off-campus training and even encouraged the ACI classes because of the unlikelihood that those classes would be less than 10. We made recommendations that all field deliveries also stop. So our employees have continued working. At the time we shut down, we had nearly 75 students on campus. I can report there's been no indications of any staff or students that were present at that time becoming ill. So we did successfully release a healthy group of individuals. We had 45 recruits in 2 separate classes on campus. Those recruits were able to stay productive through April 3rd. So my definition of productive is we were getting structured online assignments, being able to test in that environment. We did actually lose the ability to keep making forward progress after April 3rd. They're at a point where we're just going to have to bring them back together and reinforce knowledge with skill-based training. So in most cases, most fire chiefs have integrated those recruits into a limited response area. And the final thing that I'll report is by close of business today, we will submit a tiered reboot schedule for the Academy to Commissioner Farley today. Still a little bit open-ended when that reboot date would actually start. Just to put something on paper, we're submitting something for May 4th. Doesn't mean that that will be accepted. And what we prioritized our first 2 weeks. At the time that we dismissed, we had an inspector class. We had 2 different pumper driver operator classes. We had 1 fire officer 1 and 2 class, and then 2 recruit classes. So those were training classes we had going on that was training leading to certification that we just were forced for safety reasons to stop at various levels. So that will be our first 2-week priority, is to get those classes back up and running, and then we'll follow CDC and our state government's recommendation on how safe it would be to tier up from that level. I'll just open up for any questions.
Any questions for Director Elliott or TFACA? It's definitely challenging times right now, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna follow up with you on some of that online stuff. I haven't forgot you.
Okay, thank you.
No questions. We're going to new business, and we'll start with Director Grande. Which the first one is the reasonable extension of deadlines associated with COVID-19 pandemic.
I am on. I am writing a quick, trying to help somebody out here. Okay. Good morning. As you know, in the executive order, the governor allowed the reasonable extension of deadlines, and I sent you the 3 specific 4-24s that had to deal with what were mentioned in that executive order. So they have to fall within those 3 4-24s. I will say this, you know this, we've already been getting lots of calls about how folks are supposed to handle not being able to get together and train. You received a letter from Oak Ridge and Memphis and talking about their difficulty in meeting the requirements. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 others in the emails I sent you, but those were the first 2 that just really jumped out at me. And that being said, here's the things that we consider as we move forward in the consideration of extending reasonable extension of deadlines. The training is typically completed in the calendar year, and then the documentation is put in 2021. So this year, 2020, the documentation would be turned in no later than the beginning of March of 2021. So anything we do would likely impact some deadlines. Any extension we do would impact. So we can extend and allow them a month or 2 to finish out the training that they were unable to complete in 2020. But now what you've done is you've impacted the 2020 training term. So if you give them through January or you give them through February to complete training, that means they won't be doing training in January and February for the 2021 year program. Additionally, every time we do that, are we going to bump back the deadline for when paperwork is due? And since that's due, I think the 1st of March, if we bump that down to April or May 1st, now we're bumping into the fiscal deadline of June 1st that everything be paid out. So as we take that into account, as we talk about the reasonable extension of deadlines, know this, that it impacts other deadlines. We did do some communications, Commissioner Farley and I, with fiscal, and they're not confident that they can bump that June deadline back. So with that, I think it's probably prudent to at least hear some thoughts and some discussion before we move into the actual what we're going to do.
All right. So do you have a recommendation, or you think we just need to toss it around the room? Windrow, I think you had something to say.
Well, the executive order, you know, just the way the wind's blowing, they want to start, I get a feeling they want to start lifting it in May 1st, which we don't know that yet. And we don't know what it'll be lifted for. Right now, I think it's almost dangerous to set a date today because we don't know when the end is. Let's say we say, all right, we're going to extend it a month, and then this goes on 3 more months. We'll have to change our date. There's one thought. And I'm with the director. That physical payout is a hard date in the sand. You know, the fiscal year ends June 30th, so we don't want to go too far into it. I think departments, because we see the requests, like you said, from Memphis and others, they're switching to online to try to finish what they've started this year. Because really, let's face it, this really kicked in March 1st. So we only lost a month and a half so far, so to speak. It's just my thoughts out loud. I don't know about changing that date that has the physical component tied to it.
Any other thoughts?
So I'm inclined to agree with Chief Windrow about this. I'm not sure that we need to push anything out yet, but I do have a question as a whole. When you look through these requests in here, just like the one from Memphis, where they're asking permission to administer all 40 hours of our in-service this year online. One, I guess the question would be, does each department reasonably have the ability to be able to do something like that, whether it be online or whether they create PowerPoints? I'm just trying to give options to different people in different departments because not everybody may have Target Solutions or another means of doing that. But would they be able to create PowerPoints and submit those in upcoming commission meetings? We can even individually, like next month or whatever, so that we can prove those and they can teach those in-house. And I realize that we're doing away with a lot of that hands-on stuff. I understand that, chiefs and commissioners. I get that. But here again, we've got to have a little discretion with this pandemic.
Well, I'm going to ask legal Joe to touch base on that, because it was my understanding that's a rule. So there's a 20-hour rule, and that 20-hour rule would have to require a rule change. And so the option of going to a full online, if I'm correct, and I'll ask Joe to answer, is that's not an option because that's actually part of a rule.
Yes, that is correct. Under Rule 0360-07-01-005 E8, no more than 20 hours of credit will be given for computerized training courses. So what the governor's executive orders, he extended the time frame. So no longer are departments required to get this year's training done by December 31st. They're going to be granted extension, or ask the commission to consider extensions for them to that training to lead into January of 2021 or February or so forth. But the executive order does not touch where your rules, forbid only half of the 40 hours can be computerized training. That would require a rule change. It's not something you can waive either under your rules either. You can waive the deadlines, like the failing to supply the training plan for next year by October, or by filing the payment request by March. Those are things you can waive. But does that answer everyone's questions?
Does that help you, Commissioner Henry?
Thank you, Mr. Underwood.
I do have a kind of this one. I don't want to get ahead of this is Underwood again. I don't want to get ahead of the meeting. about where you're going to meet next time, but I understand from the commission is concerned to evaluate this. Maybe give it some time to figure out how far this is going to be, because we are doing with, next year. I do believe, according to the statute, and we are going to have to meet in July for the election of new officers. It's an even number year. Either that's early July or late July. So that will give you time. That's not as far as usually we meet in late August. So it will probably be meeting sooner rather than later, just for your information.
Let me, I'm going to forward a question from one of our attendees, and it asks about an executive order to change the requirement for online training. So I'll let Joe address that.
Yes, the executive orders provided the department ability, like I said, to extend the training time to obtain the training, not doing how that training is provided. That would be the commission's rules. Now the commission can change the rules. Now it will take time, and it could be effective by next year, but that would be a decision for the commission to why they want to allow more than 20 hours of training to be online.
Can an executive order, would it be possible to ask for an executive order to allow the commission to amend the rule for this 1 year?
You can ask for anything. I just don't know if you would be given that, or if the legal counsel for the governor would be waiving a law that was basically rules of a waiving of a formally adopted law. Basically, y'all are given the authority to do that, and it was ratified by the General Assembly and the Secretary of State. So it's not to come from this office, but I mean, like I said, that would be something for the governor to decide whether he'd want to do it. His legal counsel to advise him.
All right. And right now we shouldn't need, I think personally, it's probably not a good time to set a date, because you don't know how long this is going to go, my personal opinion. We can address this, like council suggests, maybe address this at a later meeting to set a date with this.
And, Chairman, the practical application is a long-time training officer. If you gave them January and February to finish their hands-on training, guess what? They're not going to do it then. It's going to be 10 degrees every day. If we send that date out, it's still not going to be, they're going to probably have to complete it by the end of this year either way. Unfortunately, that's the practical application of this. If they're holding off on practical training, they're not going to want to do it in January.
And I would bet to say that people are still doing company trainings, that they're still doing it, as company trainings. Maybe we can accept that, maybe amend their training plan if it's documented and done properly. We have the authority to do that.
Yeah, the amending of a training plan can pretty much come through our office and do that. Now, there's some requirements about instructors and other things, but again, I think that as long as they have a plan that puts them, and I received an email, I don't have it in front of me at the moment, from someone who was going to ask to do exactly that thing, which is to use their station officers and their stations to complete that one-on-one training, that practical training that they were going to do. And I think especially for those larger departments, that's got to be something that they have to consider, is instead of trying to bring 6 companies down to the training center, is to tell those or to figure out how they're going to do it. They may be able to do 2 or 3 companies together at one station and accomplish the same training. It's just going to require them to say, here's the instructor, here's who attended. It's a little bit more paperwork burden on them, I guess, unless they're doing electronic.
Randy, this is Jeff, just revisiting a little bit the online portion. I previously, frankly, so there was 1 year American Heart had pushed out a pretty significant change to CPR. So the way we handled that is, we did in one group setting, 100% of the department that was working, we pushed out a video and kind of monitored it of the changes, but then we had a dedicated person in each station to be the one to verify that they picked up on those skills. So I wonder if that is a legal option of how you could partially consider even Memphis requests without breaking rules to say there could be a hybrid version of this. We push some portions of training out online, but we have a dedicated person in each fire station to verify information and or skills was picked up. If some of the larger departments, the timelines extend and we need to address other options. I'll just let y'all talk about that.
So the rule 360-07-01.05, I think that was Echo 8, Echo E8, states no more than 20 hours of credit will be given for computerized training. I wasn't here, so I don't know the intent of that, but my guess is the intent of that was sitting in front of a computer and watching videos and answering questions online, that you could do 20 hours of that online. Whereas what Jeff is talking is a hybrid delivery of a hands-on class where they hang the training either in an email or on a common drive. Folks watch it and then complete their practicals.
Let me ask this question, Director. During this time frame that the pandemic's been going on, if a fire department was to have, let's say out of the 40 hours, just for numbers' sake, let's say there's 15 hours that may be during this time that they may not be able to get. Is there anything in there that the commission might be able to waive, let's say that 15 hours for that fire department, and where they would just have, I can't think what 15, 40, the remainder amount of hours would be approved for their annual training? Is that some kind of option?
Let me, here's my only concern, and I'll ask again, that's kind of a legal question for maybe Joe to ponder. There were 4 TCAs specifically noted in the executive order. One is to establish minimum employment and training standards for firefighters who are eligible for educational incentive. The bonus pay eligibility. For example, any or all firefighter. This is 4-24-202 bonus pay eligibility, section B or A, either one. Successfully complete any unit of government with firefighters who successfully complete in each year an in-service training course appropriate to the rank and responsibility and size and location of fire department of at least 40 hours of duration. That is under an area that the governor, at least that particular code, is mentioned in his executive order. So I'll get off and we'll ask Joe, our legal, Joseph, our legal, Mr. Underwood, our legal, to kind of address that.
Joe, you with us?
Check your mic.
Well, I'm just looking at the Executive Order 29 in reference to 24-202. All it says is it gives discretion to reasonably extend the deadline for meeting the requirement as stated. I don't think we can wait the hours. We can only extend when they finish it. I think Joe said that earlier.
Am I coming?
There you are.
There you are.
Yes. what I was trying to say is a review of your rules. I don't see any waiver of a portion of y'all's the 40-hour requirement. I know the post commission allows up to 20% of the 40 hours to be waived. They're changing that to 10%, but they still require that you do the mandatory subject, or which required mandatory under the statutory requirements, which y'all also have certain requirements that y'all make sure that part of that 40 hours is required. I do not see where y'all can waive any portion of that. I do see that the 20 hours is tied to computerized training. So you can read that as finite as you want to allow other types that may be allowed, to allow some room there regarding the 40 hours. Such as video or TV would not necessarily qualify, or classroom or something else may be able to get around that, on the computerized training. Not get around, but it's a substitute for, I'm sorry, bad choice of word.
Right. And from one of our attendees, it's essentially the same question, which is an instructor-led online class with individual class rosters and individual written exams. Again, what does the definition in that number 8, what's the definition of computerized training? Again, my thought process was that's an entirely done online program without any other. It's not, for example, if Memphis has the ability to touch all of their fire stations with a video feed, and they have one instructor to do a class on COVID-19 best practices, and they teach that, is that computerized training, or is that just online training with a single instructor, and then they can know who's on shift that day, they can get that roster filled out, and that counts as their training or part of their training. They can do 4 hours or 2 hours of that training or whatever. So I'd like for the commissioners to kind of ponder on that.
So, Director, and I'm kind of going back to what Director Elliott was talking about. We actually just completed a class at Franklin. We completed our yearly Vanessa K free class, our 8 hours online. And we used an instructor who went out and gave all of us in our fire stations the video conference side of that, which I don't count as the 20 hours. I'm like you. I think the 20 hours is probably me sitting in front of a computer looking at a Target Solutions video and then answering the questions. That's part of the 20 hours. This is more of a hybrid class. And then we actually went to our training center as companies and drove the cone course and then drove the road course and annotated that after we took our written test. There was a written test part of it. And then we annotated the driving section through the instructor, and that's put in Target Solutions.
Did you submit that as online training or computerized training, or is it just part of the program?
I would have to go back and look, sir, but I'm sure that it's just part of the program of our yearly in-service for Vanessa K Free, because normally we do the same thing. He teaches from a main site, and we put it out. That way all the companies can stay in their stations and still respectfully respond, and it's being video recorded so that if I go to a medical call while he's teaching, I can come back and actually watch that video again in Target Solutions and still be able to take the 20 or 25 question test.
So, commission members, I don't want to, I do not want to stop the conversation. I will say this. My question to you is the reasonable extension of deadlines. We're hearing a lot of the issues associated with that. I think that if we don't kind of determine what the commission feels that computerized training is, I think if we can define that right now, that will absolutely help the fire departments to come up with a plan to meet their time requirement. Does that make sense to you?
And yes, and I think the computerized training was, because I've been going to these meetings for 24 years now. was like Target Solutions, like Tennessee Fire Training, like Ricky Rescue, where an individual had a month to sit in front of a computer and do a class. That was online training, or they bought MedCert. These classes where the bigger departments, just like Franklin's not that big, the instructors at the training center broadcasting live to the stations, to me, is not online training. It's just like the instructors in the station. And then there's usually a performance component that the officer's doing. I think there's a big distinction there, and I think the departments are smart enough to figure that out. I hope. You see what I'm saying?
Actually, I agree with Commissioner Windrow, because computer-based training was designed, or online training was designed for computer-based training, a platform somewhere that somebody's created and sent out. If you're doing social distancing training from a virtual, like we are here, somebody instructing, somebody sitting there watching, to me, that's not online training. That's an instructor instructing. I completely agree with that.
I agree with that as well.
Can you hear me?
Is that you, Commissioner Hedgepeth?
It is.
Very good. Commissioner Hedgepeth has come to a computer and is actually fully in the meeting. Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome, Commissioner Hedgepeth.
Thank you.
I think
So if the commission, if the commission is giving the director a kind of guidance, like I said, that this computerized training is considered to be as a sole source of computer online, that these other training courses that you are talking about are not considered computerized training, does that provide the latitude you need, director, or give you a little more guidance?
I think that we would need to come to a definite kind of I won't say concrete, but if it is instructor led and it has individual rosters and other things, I think that that's much more workable than what I think that Commissioner Windrow said, which is I've been to many college courses where the entire class was online and all of your work was done typing and going back and forth with no actual verbal interaction or no video interaction with the students. I think that that's probably what we just need to kind of make sure that we're understanding. But I am very open to allowing technology into our system to help our departments.
I don't think we have a choice right now. I think that's the way that people's going to have to instruct if they're going to meet this requirement. They're going to have to get creative. We can only have 10 people together.
Again, I think the distinct difference is the computerized is one-on-one. There's a broad range of time usually, like if we send out bloodborne pathogens, they've got a month to finish it. That's a big difference than station 1, 2, and 3 have got to sit in front of their computer and watch, I'll use Franklin, Michael Pardue teach a class that day at that time, because that's what he submitted to the commission. That's a live class. That's not, even though we're muddying the waters, that's on the computer, that makes it online. No, that just makes it technology. It's still a live class.
Well, I would use this as an example, just what we're doing today. If we have the ability to get all 5 stations and our instructor online like this, to me, that would be the same as having everybody in the same classroom.
Yeah, they're having that back and forth and the ability to ask questions. You could even demonstrate something on a camera, a skill or a technique in front of an instructor. Hey, did I do this correctly?
Correct.
I agree totally with those statements. And, not only are we kind of catered to the COVID pandemic that we have going on, we're also keeping companies in their response areas, which helps out the fire department as well as the citizens that we all serve.
Agree. Does director, do you need some other form of official? I don't really know how that can be put into a motion. It's more of a office administrative issue, I think.
It's more, I think you've helped clarify it. I'm going to check if Michael and Brian and Fred, who are our regional coordinators. If you're on the line,
They are.
you may be the ones that can answer the questions more directly. Has the commission given you the proper guidance as to what is acceptable and what's not acceptable?
That is correct. What you all are discussing right now is already acceptable, and it does not count as online training or computerized training, because it is instructor led. There is the ability for immediate feedback, which, per the commission rules on in-service, or things such as this, whether it be closed caption television, whether it be WebEx, whatever technology they choose to use. This is still instructor-led training, and I believe it was actually already approved several years ago. I believe Commissioner Windrow brought it up, and it was talked about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago.
With it not being in the rule, does the commission think that we should reinterpret the rule to be a little clearer on what the definition of computerized training is in the future? That's not for today, that's in the future.
Yes, I think in the future we probably should address that directly.
Yeah, we could definitely look at that, because we're still in the process of some rule changes anyways. We just need to add that next time when we do get back to reconvene to a work session.
In regards to this, I just have one question for Michael Miranda and Nicholson, and then we've put these things out there for the departments. And when we say instructor led, are we making that like a firefighter can teach, or are we requiring that they have to have instructor one to teach a class? What are we doing with that?
The rule states that the person instructing a class has to either carry instructor one certification through the fire commission, or have a bio submitted to qualify as a subject matter expert, and then be approved prior to teaching the class.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Miranda.
I just lean to we'll do Brian Nicholson first. You clear on that too? Does that help you?
Absolutely. And any guidance that you have given us that helps us to clarify things for the customers, we do get customer requests for these. And the use of technology has changed since the terminology was put in the rules. So there are a lot of things that are what would have been considered computer based that are actually live instruction now. So we appreciate the clarification for that, and the ability for the director to give some validation to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred, you good and clear?
Yes, sir, I am.
Good deal. All right. Director, we'll move on to item B in new business. If there's no more questions on this issue.
Well, I guess I'm going to ask you, the title of this agenda item was the reasonable extension of deadlines. Is there a motion to extend the deadline at all, or is it just going to?
From what I heard from everyone, if somebody's willing to make a motion, we'll definitely proceed with that. But from what I heard, Director, was everybody seemed a little nervous about setting a deadline at this point. But I'll throw it out there if anybody would like to make a motion.
Well, I'd say we table this until the July meeting. I think we'll know if we need to extend dates. We'll have the firm. How far are we extending at that point?
Can I add a point of clarification on any potential deadline extensions? That it's going to be far reaching, such as practicals, needs to be considered, for people not eligible to test for the last month or month and a half.
Correct.
So I think some verbiage that could possibly be used is, I hate for it to be that generic and vague, but to extend the deadline for however long the pandemic affects, testing.
Correct. And we could probably do that once we know a time frame, but right now without a time frame, I don't know how we could do that.
Yeah, I think that what I hear is the commission is concerned that the physical distancing recommendations won't change for another 3 or 4 months. So these groups that had this in-person training scheduled, they're really going to have to kind of get on their course to rebuild and to submit how they're going to do this instructor-led training that may include video feeds.
Yep. Oh, and just like Michael said, you know, if somebody's getting close to expiring on their practical, we can't extend it for 40 days right now and then just go on for 2 more months. I feel like we should wait until we know how long we're going to be down and have to social distance before we can set a date.
And once it's lifted or once it's extended, I mean, since we have WebEx, we can set another meeting just for that agenda item.
Correct. Once it's settled, yes, we can absolutely do that. Yep. It takes, I think it took about 2 weeks to get this meeting set up and approved. Is that about right, Director?
Yes, sir.
So as long as we get about a 2-week notice and get it properly advertised, we can do it again. Any other questions? All right, Director. I don't hear any other questions or concerns on item A.
Do we need a motion to table?
That or no action, either way. We can do it either way. I think Commissioner Windrow started that motion.
I made a motion to table it.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Windrow to table reasons of deadlines associated with COVID-19 pandemic.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Tommy Kelly. Mr. Chairman, when you're ready, or correction, Mr. Director, when you're ready, we call the roll.
All right. Chairman Biggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Hedgepeth.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Speck.
Yes.
And Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
Thank you, Director. I see the motion carries. All right. Item B is 2019 Education Incentive Pay Waiver Requests. I think we have several, so do we want to take them as one or do we want to look at them individually?
There are actually 4 different types of requests. I don't know if you can take them all at once.
Okay.
Now, maybe the Memphis and Oak Ridge we've kind of answered. I don't know if do we have to take those 2 up. I guess the director can answer that.
They sent a letter requesting, and I can simply say that answer them with what the commission has allowed today, unless Joe legal thinks any differently.
No, I believe consistent with the direction the commission has provided you and me, we can move forward with that.
Okay.
All right. And then the third one is you got Memphis, Oak Ridge, you got.
So I have an Excel spreadsheet. Let me bring up, if you have access to it, Laverne's request.
Okay. That one's been removed. I seen your email this morning.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The TACA conference.
Okay.
The seminar has been removed. The city of Laverne left one person off of their roster.
Yep.
And they are asking to add that one person to their roster to get paid.
Okay, I have some technical issues with that request. I know the money's there, and I don't really care whether he gets it or, that's not the issue. We got to be careful about opening a can of worms here. What training, and you'll understand if you give me just a little leeway here. What training did he complete? The firefighter in service? He's not certified as a firefighter. In the law, 424-202 says they must complete training appropriate to their rank and responsibility. He's asking for credit. And the reason I say this, in the past, and I don't know if they did this year, in the past, like Memphis and Nashville have submitted a separate program for their fire inspectors that was consistent with their responsibility. If he's not a certified firefighter and he did firefighter training, we might open a can of worms down the road that we didn't want to open. I'm just throwing that out there for thought. And does he have the certification in compliance with 68-120-113? Those are two technical questions that we should answer.
I'm going to ask Brian, Regional Coordinator Nicholson, because the question kind of came through his office initially. And the way we look at it is, I'm trying to find it in the rule. So Brian, give us a little insight to the request.
Okay, he is certified as a fire inspector. There would, which means he would be entitled. They would need to submit substitutions as far as a conference or whatever other approved training, but he does have the required certification as a fire inspector.
Question on that, because the law hasn't, our rules haven't caught up. Because under TCA 68-120-113, they either, and I know this is an issue that the fire marshal, Commissioner Farley's been working on. They had to be SBCI, ICCI, or NFPA approved, and then the state gave reciprocity. And I know when they finished the academy classes, they were getting their state cert through ICC, although ICC wants to end that. I just want to be clear that he has a state fire marshal, not just a fire commission certification.
Yeah, but
He has licensure as well as a certification. He is a licensed fire inspector and codes official with the state of Tennessee Fire Marshal's Office. And he does have a commission pro board, which would mean he would also have an ICC certification.
And they did get that worked out, just for the commission's clarity. ICC and the state fire marshal's office got that worked out.
Commissioner, can you kind of elaborate on that? Meaning what? That they've extended that, or they're now still accepting it, or?
They're accepting it now, and as far as we know, we don't have a deadline of when they'll ever quit it. I mean, they told Commissioner Farley as long as he was there that everything was good.
And that's a true statement. And also, we're working out right now an agreement through ICC and through my office, and as far as on that. So yeah, it's just like it has been in the past.
Thank you, Commissioner Farley.
You're welcome.
So back to my original question, under 24-202, which is the Tennessee Code annotated, did he receive training that reflected his responsibility? If he's not a certified, my question, if he's not a certified firefighter and he did firefighter in service, that's creating a lot of gray that, again, why in the past would Nashville and Memphis submit separate programs for their inspectors? They were trying to comply with the law.
I believe that the intent, at least in our discussion with him, that the intent is that this person has attended the appropriate for his responsibility in service training for the year. He's attending whatever conferences or whatever necessary for his certification. I'm trying, I don't have it. I should have. As I talked with Commissioner Windrow yesterday about this matter, there is a statement, and I'm trying to find it in here, about if someone is participating, say, only on the inspection side of the certification. So they're participating in the 40 hours by renewing their certifications and attending those appropriate courses. In the rule somewhere, there's a statement that says if they were to return to firefighting or return to suppression, and I'm trying to find that.
Yeah, that's number 4 under 03607-04, entry-level personnel. It says if an individual is hired as inspector and later transfers to fire suppression, the individual has to do firefighter 1, 2, hazmat.
Right.
4. But I mean, he's substituting his 40 hours with all fire inspector classes, then he's met the law.
Correct.
That was just my concern. I didn't want to open a can of worms for departments that have been complying by having their own training for those that are not firefighters. Smaller departments like mine, they came up through the line. They're always going to be firefighters.
But none of that information is provided with the letter. But you're saying, Brian, you're saying that it was job-related training.
I don't have a list of what training he has or had. As far as his certifications go, I'm looking at his Zacadis account right now. He is certified as a firefighter 1. I think their issue was that he didn't get firefighter 2. It tends to look like it's an internal issue as far as what they want, but his eligibility through his fire inspector certification, if he was to submit the adequate substitutions, then he should be eligible. Whether that's been accomplished or not, I don't know. I don't have that information.
Okay.
I think at this point, I think that if he meets the requirements by submission of all the appropriate paperwork, then I think that he would be eligible. I think we would have to make sure that they have submitted the substitution paperwork.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion that we approve the waiver as long as the proper documentation is submitted.
All right. Motion on the floor by Commissioner Speck that waiver is granted if proper paperwork is submitted to the commission office.
I second that.
Second by Commissioner Henry. Director, will you call the roll?
Chairman Biggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Hedgepeth,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
and Commissioner Speck,
Yes.
and Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
All right. I see the motion carries. And what's the next one on your list, Director?
So let's, I have McGee Tyson requesting a waiver. So that waiver request letter, I think, finally made it to you about 15 minutes before the meeting.
Correct. Yep.
So that was just sent via email. If you'll allow me a moment to get to my email. So that the request to waive the March 1st deadline for the annual incentive pay. They apologize for the delayed submittal. There were some work issues with folks being off, and so you see that. If you don't see it, I can hopefully show it to you. But if you haven't seen it, McGee Tyson, they basically say it fell through the cracks due to a surgery and other items in March, being off in March.
Yeah, so this reads like he was off for medical for the whole month of January and part of March.
Make a motion we approve.
Before we do that, Director, There are 6 more that are identical. Instead of having to keep roll call voting all 6, can we lump these together?
Yes, sir, absolutely, if the commission would want to do so.
Now, the only question I have though is Blount County. It says, I want to apologize for not checking to see that all files that went through and been approved for the 40-hour incentive pay. Please expect my apology. Is this him submitting his 2020 program or request for 2019 payment?
I believe that's 2020 program. Michael, Regional Coordinator Miranda, can you answer that?
I believe all but one request, Hamilton County. The Hamilton County request is for something different, but I believe all the other requests are for the 2019 educational incentive pay, missing the deadline, March 1st deadline to submit for pay. The Hamilton County request is they missed the deadline to submit a program for 2020 training year, but they're brand new into it. They've just started.
So go to, Commissioner Windrow, would you go down the list of the ones that you say?
These are the ones that want an extension to the March 1st. Blount County, Sevier County, Goodlettsville, Lenoir City, Rogersville, and then McGee Tyson that you said already.
Yeah, that was today's.
Was that too fast?
I'm just looking at my list. I see something from Oakland on my list.
Oakland.
I don't have that.
We don't have that.
All right, let me.
Oak Ridge, but not in Oakland.
I don't have an Oakland.
All right, let me find it in the file. It could be a typo on my behalf, or
Director and Chairman, I wanted to add on to Windrow, Commissioner Scott. When I read this waiver, I had the same questions as what is Blount County looking for, because they didn't clearly state it in their letter. And unless we had some type of verification of what it is that they're asking for, I don't feel comfortable adding this into a group approval at this time.
I don't think Commissioner Windrow was suggesting Blount County be included in that, was you?
Well, I mean, if we have some, if Brian has an email from them, I mean, that would corroborate what they're asking. This letter alone doesn't even tell me what they're asking for. I could interpret it to be the 2020 program or the 2019 payment.
Yeah. I think Michael Moran was looking up something for that.
yeah,
I can shed some light on this. Oakland Fire Department, back a few months ago, or probably 6-8 months ago, when MTAS taught the FLSA class across the state, they taught in that class that the educational incentive pay money needed to be calculated into their base rate and overtime rate. The city of Oakland decided at that point, not the fire department, but the city, that they were not going to have Oakland Fire Department participate in the program because they didn't want to pay the extra 28 cents an hour. And they have since reevaluated that position and are allowing Oakland Fire Department to participate in the program. And that's what the waiver request is for, the October 1st deadline to submit their 2020 program.
So it was a late submittal request. Okay.
Sir.
It's a different type of waiver than these other ones.
I think that's going to tie in with the same as Hamilton County as the October 1st deadline to submit a program.
Okay, then I think we're on the right page. I think everybody has everything. Michael, is Maryville in, did Commissioner Windrow, did you say the name Maryville in your 6?
No, we don't have that one.
Michael Miranda, can you shed some light on Blount County, what their request is again?
I believe Blount County is going to be the same as Maryville and the same as Sevier County, Goodlettsville, Rogersville. That's the March 1st deadline to submit their request for pay.
Do you have any more documents saying that?
From Blount County, let me check my records.
I mean, he does say incentive pay, so I mean, you could infer that he means the March 1st deadline, but I sure wish he would have written one more sentence.
That's the way I look at it, as the same because of that. But again, your incentive pay is the same for your training for next year as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, depends on which way you're looking at it.
Okay, so Blount County doesn't need to be lumped into this. Blount County can be approved. They had submitted their request and the notarized statement of the fire chief, but they were late in submitting the verification form in ACADIS, so it's just an amendment. They submitted prior to the deadline, but it was incomplete.
Okay, well, they're okay then. If it's just incomplete follow-up paperwork, they should be okay. They shouldn't need a waiver for that.
Correct.
All right.
So the director has something from Maryville though?
I am attempting to find it in my files. I apologize. I thought it was already there.
I just double checked, Director. I didn't see it as well.
Blount and Maryville may be the same.
No.
No, it specifically says Blount County on the headline there.
Yeah, I actually have an email thread with Cheryl. Let me go online and check in our.
Cheryl's on with us. I don't know if she can.
Cheryl, do you remember the Maryville? There it is. All right, there's the Maryville waiver.
She just sent it to you.
Yeah. It sounds as though they missed the deadline. When was this sent? This was sent on April the 16th. In accordance with the directions from your office requesting a waiver on the in-service response date, the submission was failed because of the monitoring the time frame. Hope that our personnel will not suffer because of their mistake. So it's a request, I'm guessing, to allow them to submit their documentation late.
So do you have of these departments? So now we're looking Maryville, Sevier County, Goodlettsville, Lenore City, and Rogersville. What programs have been submitted? I mean, they've had 46 days now past the deadline to submit.
These programs aren't, they were submitted last year or in 2018 for the 2019 training year. They were just, these departments are specifically missed the March 1st deadline to submit their request for pay.
And I believe that we have received the majority of that. I'm double checking with Cheryl to make sure that they have all submitted their proper documentation.
Yeah, I mean, the motion just needs to include that pending the proper, that you have received the paperwork from these agencies.
Carol did put something on that she has received them.
Yes, they have. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So I'll make a motion that we accept or approve the March 1st waiver for Sevier County, Goodlettsville, Lenore City, Rogersville, and Maryville.
Commissioner Speck started the motion. Do you want to include that in your motion, Commissioner Speck, and let Commissioner Windrow second that?
Second that.
Okay.
Do we need to put, don't forget McGee Tyson, right?
McGee Tyson, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Director, did you need him to slow down and you get that list?
I'm going to count on that. Miss Cheryl is, that's one of the things I've asked Ms. Diener to do is to follow up on this. So I heard McGee Tyson, Lenore City, Goodletts, Blount County, Maryville, Rogersville. Okay. If you'll read it off one more time very slowly, I will make some marks.
All right, McGee Tyson, Maryville, Sevier County, Goodlettsville, North City, and Rogersville. Should be 6.
I just want to state that Sevier County Sevier County Volunteer Fire Department.
I was gonna say, Oscar, can you vote on this?
No, it's different. It's Puckett, I think, is Sevier County.
Yes.
And Lenore City was in that group, Commissioner Windrow.
Yes, they're one of the 6.
Okay. I have McGee Tyson, Lenore City, Goodlettsville, Maryville, Rogersville, and Sevier County.
That sounds accurate.
I think we can vote on that.
Commissioner Speck made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Windrow. Whenever you're ready, Director, call the roll.
Chairman Biggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Hedgepeth,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Speck,
Yes.
and Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
That is all of them.
All right, I say the motion carries for them 6. If we would, we will take the next category was for Blount County and Hamilton County for the 2020 training deadline that they missed in October 1 of 2019.
I think Oakland was in the group, Michael. Was that correct?
Oakland. I forget Oakland. Okay, and Oakland.
Okay.
Them 3 are the 3 that we need to address now. We would like to take them as a group.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve those 3 for missing the October 1 deadline?
Yes. Motion by Commissioner Windrow to accept all 3 as one package and approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Michael Henry. Director, when you're ready, call the roll.
Thank you. I'm getting there.
It's okay. Take your time.
Chairman Biggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Hedgepeth,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Speck,
Yes.
and Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
All right, that's all of those 3.
Okay. Any other requests that we might have missed?
I have an oddball question since I've never heard of it. Is the Hamilton County Hazmat Department separate from some entity down there? And is it a fire department? I don't know that it affects this, but it's just, I know they have an FDID, but anybody can get that.
Regional coordinator.
Hamilton County Hazmat Department is a subsidiary of Hamilton County Office of Emergency Services. They are responsible for training all the firefighters in Hamilton County, all the volunteer departments, plus these are career. I think there's about 6 people who would be eligible, and they also respond to major fire incidents and all sorts of emergency services. They're not able to be in the meeting today. They're all out currently performing damage assessments from the tornadoes.
Thanks.
All right. Any other that we might have missed, Director?
I don't have any at the moment. I'm checking a couple of different Q&As that are popped up. Jeffrey Bush as a Q&A popped up on so as far as waivers or any other documented items, no, we don't have anything standing forward that I know about today.
Next item on the agenda is discussion on May 5th meeting schedule in Gatlinburg. As we all know, that's probably not going to happen, so I think we need a motion to cancel that meeting since we're in a public meeting. Commissioner Speck, I think, attempted to say something, but looks like she lost connection. If someone else can hear, they can maybe translate. I'm unable to copy her.
You're very broken there, Commissioner
Commissioner Speck made a motion.
Commissioner Speck made a motion to cancel the Gatlinburg meeting. Okay.
Yes, I'll second.
Second by Torn Hedgepath. All right. Director, whenever you're ready, call the roll.
Chairman Biggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Hedgepeth. Commissioner Hedgepeth, I think you're probably a yes, you seconded, so.
I think he's muted. Can I get these mute buttons during the real meeting so I can just mute people when I want?
Well, I'll go to the next one. Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Speck. I heard a yes. Okay. Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
The only one that I was iffy on was Commissioner Hedgepeth. Were you a yes on the cancel the Gatlinburg meeting?
Yes. I apologize, and I'm going to have to step away for about 10 minutes. I'm at work. I'll be back as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You'll note that Commissioner Hedgepeth has stepped out of the meeting.
Well, he'll probably come back to an empty room. Is there any other discussion for new business?
And I don't know that this even needs a motion. This is typically the meeting, or it would be the meeting where we draw audits. We don't draw them, so I don't know that it can't be wrong. The director usually uses the computer program to spit them out. Once he would need these 6 we voted on today to make sure their paperwork's in, so they could be in the hopper. But do we need to take any action on this?
Commissioner Windrow, that's a great point. Myself, Director Grande, and Chief Counsel Underwood had this discussion last week. We do not have to take action on that at this meeting. We can do it at our next meeting. It's going to shorten the time frame that Director Grande and us have to get to complete the audits before the end of the year. But I think at that time he feels that'd be a better time to do it then.
The audit personnel said that as long as we completed prior to the starting of payments of next year, that we would be good.
Oh, the only other question I have and this can go offline, but in the rules, a department can't get a waiver 2 years in a row. So we probably need to look at the April 2019 meeting to make sure these 6 departments didn't have a waiver last year.
Good point.
What is the commission's desire? Is it just an automatic refusal to give a waiver 2 years in a row?
It's in the rules. It's
Okay.
on page, I believe it says that no department can do 2 years in a row.
We the rules that were submitted to be heard, to be verified by the government ops committee in March was postponed, and we're still planning to go forward on government office meeting, hopefully May or June. But that would also, but there is a 2 years, unless otherwise authorized by the commission, will be part of the new rules. So technically they're supposed to be effective the 22nd of April or 22nd of March. I believe the rules were going to affect. So you do have a little leeway, I think, in the new rules that if you otherwise approve. So I don't know if you want to or not, or that may be something you consider later. I don't know. You're correct, Commissioner Windrow. Under current rules, there is a 2 year absolute.
I think any of these departments are in that category, but I don't have the minutes in front of me.
I will ask the legal. It was my understanding, and you could please correct me. I hope I'm wrong, or I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. In one of the emails, the discussion was that the rule change, even though it hasn't gone through the whole governmental process, that the rule, if the effective date was in March, then it's effective then and could be denied once it did actually make it into rulemaking. And if I'm wrong, that's fine.
No, that's correct. It's a strange thing because actually all the rules are not, they become effective, but until the General Assembly adopts a bill, and they do that at the beginning in January each year to adopt every rule that was made. That's how when they actually, I guess, it becomes officially. But yes, I think they're already in effect. I was looking on the website to see if they're posted that way with the Secretary of State's website, and I'll get back to you if there's not.
Last question for you, Chairman. Do you want to set a date for a July meeting?
It's coming up.
Okay.
Is there a public comment period, a question section in this agenda as well? Okay.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for the commission? Any other business under new business? If not, I'll proceed. Hearing none. Public comments and suggestions. This is an opportunity for the audience to make comments or ask questions of the commission on its actions taken at today's meeting. If you will, and if you have a question, you can submit that question in the comment section. We'll give it just a minute before we proceed, just in case someone does have a question.
Cheryl's already answered the question on waivers from last year. There was only one department.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Stephanie, for answering her.
I don't know if you have do you have the Q&A on the sidebar on your computers? If you do, you can perhaps read. There are some concerns voiced by Mr. Bush about, with the COVID, so much vacation was canceled that as it gets eased up, departments are going to have difficulty or issues associated with their own folks being out on vacation to complete the program. I think that's up to that individual department to figure it out.
Yes, sir. I think that's an administrative. I did see that question, but we didn't take action on that today. We didn't set a time frame deadline. So I understand, because a lot of departments have canceled all Kelly days and vacation days during this time. So it is going to hit everybody when they open the gates. Not many people other than myself want to go to Florida right now.
I'm trying to see if I can, we have about 32 attendees out there that are still online that I can see. I'm not sure I see any further questions from them. Please, if you do have a question, send it to Q&A or to the chat, either one, very quickly before the meeting is closed.
I'm not seeing anyone, but I would like to, while they're still on there, we're still waiting. I would like to thank all of our participants. At one time I seen it was up to like almost 49, counting the panelists and all. So we probably wouldn't have had that many people at a meeting today, unless we was in Gatlinburg. That's typically our largest meeting. So I do want to thank everybody for participating, and thank each of you for being able to jump online and knock this out. I don't see any questions.
Well, and I do have, the legal counsel just checked the Secretary of State's website. Those rules I had, on some reason I was thinking it was March 20th, but it's April the 20th. Those rules are due to go into effect. So unless I hear otherwise, they should go into effect on April the 20th, on Monday. Thank you.
Chief Counsel, is there any issues with everything going on that'll be delayed or affected?
There may be. I don't anticipate it. We do appear before the government ops, and they can make a recommendation, and then they can have some input on how we go forward. They would, if they would require us to take further action, we will present that in July to the commission and reconsider something else. But I will update as soon as possible.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, this is the director. Do you have, do you want to wait until the next meeting to draw audit names?
I think we can. I think that would be fine to wait. I think it's kind of what me and you talked about. I mean, if you're prepared to do that today, we can.
I am not, but I would just want to make sure that you wanted to, you didn't want us to do it over the next couple of weeks. You want to wait and do it at the next meeting.
Well, it has to be approved. It has to be approved by the commission.
Right.
Yep.
There is a question if you want to answer it, Chairman.
So this is from Laverne. Do I need to request a waiver to submit an in-service for fire inspector? Mr. Harney, hopefully you can hear me out there. I think if you'll contact Regional Coordinator Brian Nicholson, he'd be more than happy to help you submit the required documentation to help you get the waiver and all the appropriate documentation for the request you made earlier. He sent a thank you. So,
all right.
Since I have the audience, we have put a request into the governor to extend the deadline to comply with Barry Brady. Well, I was saying, if you try to send something in, we sent that in 2 months ago, and he's been hammered with tornadoes and viruses. We still don't have an answer, because technically, if you haven't completed your medical exams by June 30th, you're not eligible for the presumption. The Senate passed abolishing that date, but the House did not take it up before they abruptly adjourned. So we've asked the governor to give us an executive order to extend that deadline until they come back. There's no answer to that yet, but we're trying to get that extended so cities can comply.
All right.
Figure that out in the field.
yeah, we had a question pop up on somebody who missed the first part of the meeting. This meeting will be recorded and will be placed in the appropriate spot online for folks to review it over the time.
All right. Hearing any other comments or questions, we'll watch that for a minute because this usually takes a little bit of time. So dates for future meeting. We had that on our agenda for May 5th, but we took action and deleted that. So right now we have no meeting set going forward. What's the pleasure of the group?
Just warning, since we're talking July, Tennessee Fire Chiefs Conference is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 in Murfreesboro. And then Firehouse Expo is the next week in Nashville. We either want to be in on those or we want to avoid those.
And then again, the Tennessee Fire Chiefs, I don't know that it's out yet. That is not happening on 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're going to meet in Gatlinburg on 28, 29, and 30 of July.
Commission members, I don't know how many more meetings you plan to have this year. This is considered the second of the year. So that if you're planning just to have 2 more meetings, they will be required to be in East and West Tennessee as you've met in Brentwood in February.
And do we need to meet before the end of July, or as long as we meet in July, we should be okay?
The statute requires, there's a statute requires in July of an even number of years, the commission will meet to elect a new chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Okay. So we can do it on the possibly the front end of the 28, 29, 30, or we can do it July 27th. Will we need a 2-day meeting or a 1-day, Director?
I'd love to say a 1-day, but I think we probably ought to expect at least a 1.5, because I'm not sure that we're not going to want to talk about some other rulemaking items, just like we discussed today about computerized training and other stuff.
Okay.
Can we do kind of like we've done in the last couple of meetings, a work session at 9 in the morning on the 27th, then the business meeting that afternoon, or do you think we need more time than that?
I think that either way would work. Yep.
Not to interrupt, but I am back. Sorry about that.
Welcome back, Torn.
So what date are you looking at?
Chief Moore, am I correct? Or Jeff Elliott, you can probably, either one of y'all could probably tell me. I think we're 28, 29, and 30 is the fire chief's meeting in Gatlinburg. Is that right?
See if I can pull up an email from James Fountain and verify.
Or Commissioner Farley, if you're still on, you was on that call as well. Look out behind you, Commissioner Scott. You got somebody sneaking up on you.
I will say real quickly, I wasn't sure that it came out earlier, but since we have while Jeff's looking for his document, the ICC item. So that ICC item was handled. That route for our inspectors still exists. There may be a price change in it. I'm not sure because I haven't heard back yet. What used to cost, I'm thinking it was a $50 fee. It might have changed to a higher fee, but the route for that certification still exists. And we are in discussion with NFPA about a similar route with them.
Yep. Good point.
Commissioners and Director Grundy, I did verify. Here's the email that James Fountain said. He said we are looking to reschedule to July 28th through 30th meeting in Gatlinburg. Now, what it does not say, it doesn't specify if it's at the Park Vista, so it may be difficult for y'all to say that you knew that where the location is going to be, and if we could have a meeting room at the Park Vista, if that's where it's going to be on the 27th, because it doesn't detail that information. Does it mean that some of the area fire departments couldn't host us off-site?
I could work on getting a location if the Park Vista is not where it's going to be at.
Just 1 second. I got James on the phone. I'll get an answer for us.
And the other part on that is, I mean, we could also do the work session the afternoon of the 27th and the meeting of the 28th. Normally the first day, it's just the executive board meeting on the first day of the fire chiefs, which is a limited audience.
Thank you. Okay. Everything is confirmed. We are at the Park Vista again, July 28, 29, and 30. James just finalized that contract this week, so that information will be going out. He did recommend that if we wanted to, we was welcome again. If we could recommend that we meet on the 28th.
What if we just start that morning with the workshop and then run right into our meeting when we're done?
Yep. Start a workshop at 0900 Eastern Standard Time at the Park Vista in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
I think Torrin and Commissioner Specht are going to say, no, it's too far to drive.
Does that have to go in the form of a motion, or are we just
Yes.
setting it?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that, Brian.
Make a motion by Commissioner Moore that the Firefighting Commission will meet at 9:00 on July 28th at the Park Vista located in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Need a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Henry. Director, will you call the roll?
Just a sec. Yep. All right. So all of my columns are getting compressed here. Let me see. All right. Chairman Biggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Hedgepeth.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Speck.
Yes.
And Commissioner Windrow.
Yes.
And who made the motion in second, please?
Motion by Commissioner Moore, seconded by Commissioner Henry.
Thank you.
And if we will, let's start thinking about West Tennessee location. So our West Tennessee folks, if y'all will start kind of putting that in your mind somewhere. Typically we go to Madison County. It's a pretty good place. They're great to work with sometimes. So we'll probably need to have that meeting. I would say sometime around October. Is that correct, Council?
That's correct.
Yes, that is correct. The last quarter.
Okay. So October, November, December, somewhere in that time frame. Is there any other business?
I would just like to bring up with the rule change that takes effect on Monday, April 20th, the HMO course requirement that goes into effect. With the last month and a half, TEMA canceling classes, do we want to take any action on that, or is there any action that can be taken?
Well, I think that the rule, if I remember what Council Underwood said, is the rule goes into effect. If it's turned around when it gets up before it would have to be turned around as it moved forward in the process. Is that correct?
That's correct. Or you could direct me to repeal the rule following. I mean, that would be the other motion, would be to take them all back. But
Michael, I think your question is one of that. We just didn't want to set any extensions yet till we know the social distancing is lifted, so we know how if we're going to push things, how far are we pushing?
No, I understand that. I guess where I'm going with it is if they've not been able to attend an HMA class or HMO class, they won't be eligible to test until you all, I guess the July meeting, potentially make a decision on an extension.
I would recommend that they still go on with their class.
There's no classes available currently.
Correct, but there will be hopefully before July. I would say they go on with their class, and I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like we will definitely address this issue for this, during this time.
I agree. I was just looking for some clarifications. I'm sure it's going to come up here in the next month. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from staff or any commission members? Let's check Q&A one more time before we.
I didn't see any.
I don't see anything. All right. Seeing nothing, hearing nothing from anyone.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Windrow to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor, hit the red button.
I did just receive clarification that TEMA is going to be shut down until the end of May.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Thank you. I declare motion properly seconded to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.
See you. Thanks.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Director, did you get it all recorded?
Yes, Greg is actually asking me when to stop the recording, and right now would be a good time.
Be a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.